If you believe Pitfire Pottery can't be functional, this video will change your mind. First, we'll take a look at what functional pottery really is. It's not about what the pot looks like, but it's what it's used for, its functionality. By the end of this video, you'll see that Pitfired Pottery is not just beautiful, it can also be very functional. So, to begin with, what is functional pottery? Well, a very narrow definition is kitchenware. So, cooking bowls or ovenware, or even plates and cups and bowls. But I think that is too narrow a definition. I would like to broaden the scope a little bit into what else we use pottery for, because I think that's functional pottery as well. So that could be like vases, it could be table lamps, it could be ashtrays, or it could be soap dispensers, or credit card holders, or business card holders in your office, jars for storage, or candle holders. All these items are what I would call functional pottery. So I don't think that we should limit that term just to things that we use in the kitchen. So when we talk about functional pottery, there are typically two different sides of it. One is the stuff that we use in the kitchen and needs to be in touch with food. And for that, of course, we need it to be food safe. But for the other types of functional pottery, sometimes like a vase, it needs to be waterproof. But if it's a credit card or business card holder or candlelight or candle holder or something like that, it doesn't need to be waterproof, and it certainly doesn't need to be food safe. So all these different items have different purposes and different requirements. But let's take a look at the most difficult part first, the stuff that we use in the kitchen. Food safety and pottery is actually a much more complicated issue than most people think. I dedicated an entire video just to that. I'm going to link to it somewhere here and down in the description. The fact is that food safety is not a universal, a global standard. So what is considered food safe in your country may be different in my country. But there are some general guidelines for food safety, like does the surface leak any toxic elements? Does it have any cracks or something where bacteria can harbor and so on? And that is relevant to talk about for any kind of pottery, not just pit-fired pottery. But a lot of people think that it's impossible to make a pit-fired pottery food safe. But that is not true. There are different options. One of the options that are used for bowls like this a lot is to use a sealant from an Australian company called liquid quartz. This is a very, very fine particle quartz element that goes into the little pores of the pot and close it. So it becomes completely waterproof. And also, this is approved for food in Australia and the EU. So all of Europe and Australia have this approved for food. Now, it may not be approved for food in your region where you're living. You have to check up on that. But the fact is that it can create pit-fired bowls that are food safe, that are waterproof. Let me just show it to you because this one has been treated with this liquid quartz. Now, if we put water into it, you'll see something almost magical. Can you see the way that the water moves around in the pot? It looks almost like it's glazed, but it's not. And this also works for wine and oil and other kind of liquids. Now, the second part of it is what kind of materials you used to fire your pit-fired pots. Now, in this case, it's just iron and organic materials, combustible materials. So there are no toxic chemicals introduced into this pot. But if you're using toxic chemicals that we sometimes use, like cobalt or copper or something like that, it could leak even through the sealant, like the liquid quartz or other sealants. So just because you're sealing it so it becomes waterproof doesn't necessarily make it food safe in itself. The third part of it is cracks, because if you have cracks, and that is true even if you glaze it, if you have crackle glazes, those little cracks can harbor bacteria. So you don't want to have that for something where you store food directly into it. But I think there's also a question of what kind of food you put into it. I would not put a soup or salad into this, but I do store apples, I store bananas, I store bread, candy, all my bowls of candy, right? So you can have things in there that you don't directly put in your mouth. Now, of course, you do it with apples, but for bananas or oranges or candy that is wrapped up in paper, I wouldn't be worried at all. So I do actually use this bowl, and it is, in my mind, perfectly food safe. The company in Australia that sell liquid quartz also have customers there that are using liquid quartz for restaurants, for plates. So they do that, and they do serve with them, and I don't think that's going to kill anyone. But again, it could be different in your region, so it's definitely something you have to check up on. But you can take this a step further because, unlike what many powders think, you can actually combine glazing and pitfire. So you can get the sealant, the food safety, and the waterproof inside with glazing and still have the beautiful pitfired colors on the outside where the food is not touching the bowl at all. This is an example. I have a full video about how I did this. This is an example of a pot I did that combines actually 4 different fires in what I thought would be impossible that turned out not to be so impossible. It is made with porcelain, so that's the first fire, and many potters will tell you porcelain is not going to survive in a pit fire, but it does. I actually made a lot of porcelain in Pitfire, and it can look really beautiful because I have such a white, nice surface. So after I bisque fired it, I glazed it on the inside and I glazed it on the top of the outside. On the lower part, I put terciolata to make it shiny and nice. So then I fired it in a glaze fire. And now most potters would tell you, but if you glaze fire, the clay will vitrify and all the pores will close and the pit higher colors, the fumes and the salts and so on won't attach, it won't absorb into the pot. But this is a living proof that is not true because this was pit fired after I did the glaze firing. So now we have a pot that is glaze fired on the inside. So it's a clear glaze, perfectly food safe. This is made for food for that specific kind of porcelain. And in the fourth fire, so after I did the pit fire and got these beautiful colors, I added gold luster on the top here. And that's the reason I glazed it also on the top because, as you may already know, gold luster needs a glaze to look good. And then I gave it a fourth fire. And then most potters will tell you, again, a myth that if you take a pit-fired pot and you refire it in electric kiln, all the nice colors from the pit fire will disappear. But because the gold luster fire is only 700 degrees Celsius, around that, it actually increased the colors, and you'll be able to see that in the full video that I have about how I did this pot and do this technique. I'll put a link somewhere here or down in the description. So that was about food safety. So just to summarize on the food safety thing, make sure that you are not using toxic chemicals when you fire it. Make sure you don't have crackles and seal it with something that is food safe approved, such as the liquid quartz. Or go with the glazing, glaze it inside, and then pit fire it on the outside. So let's take a look at another kind of functional piece that you would very likely do in pit fire, a vase. This is a very big vase that I did. I also made a lot of smaller vases, but I'll get back to you in a second of why I chose this one for the demonstration here. Because, as you know, when we take things out of the pit fire, it is not entirely waterproof. It is the same thing with ragu because it doesn't get fired up to the temperature where the clay totally or fully vitrified. So it's a little bit porous. It's not like water is running out of it, but it can be a little bit damp on the outside. So you don't want to put it on some sensitive surfaces. But I use a sealant on the inside. And you can get concrete sealants of different kinds around the world. And I'm using this one that I get here in Denmark. It's called a binder. And it's very, very cheap. I think I paid, I don't know, $10 or something for this. And it lasts almost forever. So this is very good. And I gave this pot, this vase, 2 treatments. One put it in, swirl it around, pull it out, let it dry a little bit, and do it one more time just to be sure. And now this is an experiment, and this is the reason why I chose this big pot, because this one can hold about 10 liters of water. So I filled it up with water a couple of weeks ago, and I put it here on my table, and I put this napkin underneath because this would reveal, oh, it's a little bit heavy, this would reveal if there was any kind of water running out of it. And as you can see here, I move it here. As you can see here, it's completely dry. There's not a single drop. There's no damp. So this is a 100% waterproof pit-fired vase. So you can do that. The trick is to find a sealant that works for you. Now there's a wide range of different concrete sealers. So go to your builder's market and ask them about it and try it out. I know that this multi-binder works really good. So if you can get that, you can definitely use that. But otherwise, try out whatever you can get locally. That is a very good way of doing it. Another kind of functional pot that I also like doing is table lamps. And originally, I got the idea before I realized that you could also do food-safe pottery with Pitfire. And I was thinking, what kind of functional, not just decorative things can we make with Pitfire that don't have to be in touch with food? And I came up with the idea of table lamps. Also because the colors are so beautiful. So I was thinking, if we can get some light on it, it will actually be even more beautiful. So take a look at, for example, this one. See, it is indeed very functional. And I think it looks beautiful because it highlights those beautiful colors, and especially if you burnish it and polish it really nice so it's good and shiny. I think this is a very good use of Pitfire. And this is definitely functional. So, in summary, even though a lot of people associate Pitfired pottery with just being decorative, it is in fact also very functional or can be made very functional. Even if you believe that functional pottery is only what we use in the kitchen, you can indeed make it with Pitfire. You just have to be aware of the things that are mentioned in this video. Make sure that you don't use toxic elements. Make sure that you seal it with something that is approved for food. But then you can actually make food-safe Pitfired pottery. And when it comes to vases, you can use sealant that makes it entirely perfectly waterproof. I still recommend to my customers that if they put it on a very sensitive table, like a high polished piano or something, I would put that on a piano. But let's say you do that, I would definitely put a napkin or plate or something underneath, because even with the best sealant, there is a risk, of course, that a little bit of damp comes out. But that is true for any kind of vase. But then when it comes to business card holders or table lamps or other kind of functional pottery items that doesn't require water in it and doesn't require contact with food, then it's no problem at all. So I think I busted this myth. Pitfired pottery can indeed be functional, and I hope that you won't limit yourself just to making decorative pieces with Pitfire. If you want to learn more about Pitfire and how to create functional pieces like this, I have an online course that you can sign up to. You'll get access to more than 50 videos explaining in details exactly how to make things like this. Please follow the link in the description or go to themip.com/pottery. I hope to see you there, and have a nice day.